All right, we're 6 days away from the start of training camp. 6 days away, and I can hardly contain myself. No big news today when it comes to the Texans, although J.J. Watt's brother did get paid, and Pittsburgh continues to spend a hell of a lot of money to be on the mediocre treadmill that they've been on. I'll hop right into this. Thanks to Bob Tack for sponsoring the video, but I just want to get right into this and talk about the 6 best things that the Texans have done and changes that they've made from 2024 to 2025. What are the 6 best changes that were made now compared to last year? Number 1 is Triple B. Not talking about Big Baller brand, LeVar Ball, but maybe you could get a Big Baller brand shirt, and this could kind of be doubled up. Maybe you can get like a battle red, blue, Big Baller brand shirt, but it's Triple B, aka Bye Bye Bobby. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say,
damn it, Bobby,
that hiring Nick Caley is one of the best things they did. I'm intrigued by what Nick Caley can do. I think there's reason for optimism. I like what I've heard. Despite the fact that this is going to be kind of a version of the Bill O'Brien, the once despised Bill O'Brien system, I like what Nick Caley has the potential to do. But I just think the fact that DeMeco Ryans showed that he was willing to make these tough decisions. I talked about this the other day with Mike Meltzer. There are a lot of coaches in this situation that, given the history that DeMeco Ryans and Bobby Slowick had, and given the fact that DeMeco Ryans liked the system and he kind of was buddies with Bobby Slowick, he started his time in San Francisco with Bobby Slowick. When Slowick was there, DeMeco could have easily kicked the can down the road. We saw O'Brien do that a number of times. He could have easily kicked the can down the road, but I think the fact that DeMeco Ryans had the nuts to make this decision, we'll see what happens with the Caley thing. I'm not going to stick my chest out and say that was a good decision because I've never seen Nick Caley call a play. There's a lot of reason for the Nick hype. I'm not hating on Nick Caley.
Nick.
And I look forward to seeing what he does, but I think the fact that they were willing to make the change and not kick the can down the road, I think that is a very, very good thing and a very, very good act by DeMeco Ryans. Your coach is willing to make tough decisions. He's not going to be stagnant. He's going to make tough decisions. And he made one. And we'll see if we look back on this and say, what a decision by DeMeco Ryans. Or if we look back and say, man, DeMeco Ryans just doesn't really have control of the offensive side of the ball. Who knows? But the fact that it's not Bobby, it's anyone but Bobby, that's a good thing that they made this change. And it gives us a hell of a lot more to watch. How are they lining up? How often are they using this guys? Where are these guys? What does this guy look like in this system? It's something to keep an eye on. Speaking of the system, I want to talk about potential guys that could fall off. So fall off watch. And potential guys that can burst onto the scene watch. It's not very efficient name, but we'll get into that a little later on in the show. HD 80 Traveler, as always, per the usual.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm in the building. Shout out to HDAV, one of the hardest working men in Austin, allegedly. So number 1, bye Bobby, Triple B. You made that decision. You made that change. It needed to be made. So bye Bobby. Number 2, moving on from Laramie Tunsil. I support this move wholeheartedly. Do I expect immediate dividends? No, I think there'll be times where you'll miss Laramie Tunsil. Maybe. But I don't think that Laramie Tunsil is connected to X amount of wins. I don't think he's that type of player. I don't think he's Trent Williams. I don't think he's Bruce Matthews. I think Laramie Tunsil does his thing. He helps your team. His guy is not really going to pressure CJ Stroud too often. But given the fact that this was inevitable and you were eventually going to move on from Tunsil because you were going to have to pay other guys, and given the fact that maybe that Laramie Tunsil being kind of the face of your offensive line is not beneficial for the entire unit. I think this was a good decision moving on from Laramie Tunsil. You kind of take away one of the leaders who moves it. It was funny. They showed that NFL 100, and I think Laramie Tunsil was player number 78. And Will Anderson's sitting there complimenting him. And even when he's complimenting him, he says that Laramie Tunsil's one of those guys who doesn't have to practice. He doesn't have to do much, and then he goes out there on Sunday and does his thing. I know Allen Iverson kind of subscribes to that. But
we're in here talking about practice.
I don't think everyone can move like that. And it's just funny that as you're complimenting the guy, that's kind of something that you see. CJ has said it in the past as well. So moving on from Tunsil, I fully support. I think it's a good thing. I'm hoping that it kind of leads to maybe a little bit more accountability on the offensive line. I thought the way they handled the Minnesota game was bad, but it was inevitably going to happen. I don't think it impacts the wins too much. And there's a chance that it makes offensive linemen 2 through 5 better. Number 1 might not be as good, the top guy, but I think moving on from Laramie Tunsil can make 2 through 5 better. Some may disagree. Titus Howard may disagree. Titus Howard's playing guard now, brother. So that should tell you everything you need to know. Titus Howard's a guard now. I know that's like his boy and all that, but he's a guard. He's fighting for his life. So moving on from Tunsil, I think it was a good move. Best change number 2. Best change number 3. Getting younger wide receiver talent. I have no problem with swinging for the fences with Stephon Diggs last year. That was fine. You wanted to bring in a veteran. You wanted to see how he complemented the other guys. There were some good times. He had a very good camp last year, and there was some good moments in the season. But as soon as Tank Dell got hurt, and as soon as we saw what was happening with Tank, you needed to get younger at the wide receiver position. Nico Collins can't hold it down by himself. And I don't know how Nico Collins' his game is going to age. I hear, and I had this disagreement with Cody Stutes, that he says that Nico Collins' game is going to age well. Did you know that Nico Collins, could I interest you in a stat? Nico Collins has missed an entire season of games. And that's not counting the ones where he leaves early. In 4 years, he's played 51 games, which means that he has missed 17 ball games. 17 out of 68. I found this fascinating, although I probably should not. But when I was looking at the comparison between him and Garrett Wilson, you started kind of trying to think about variables for per game. Because for the most part, you look at the last few years when it comes to Nico Collins, and the per game's through the roof. There's no denying that. But then you look at the total games, it's like, well, I don't have to do this. I don't have to do any skewing or adjusting, because Nico Collins has played 3 years worth of games in 4 years. And the thing about it is, and they got him on a bargain deal. I mean, Nico Collins is a top 10 receiver in the NFL. And I think if you could turn the injuries off, he's top 5. We all know this. But the most troubling thing about the missed games is it's not like he just missed a season. You know, it's not like there was an injury and he missed a season. It's spread out over 4 years. And 4 years is a pretty large sample size, if we're being honest. Like, how long are NFL receivers in their primes for? 8 years? 9? I mean, we have examples of guys doing it for a long time, but it doesn't get any easier to stay healthy. And it just happens to some guys. And having young guys with upside allows them to kind of carry the load for Nico Collins, because you're going to have to, unless something happens that has never happened before, there's going to be games where Nico Collins is out and the young guys have to pick it up. And I think they did an excellent job of getting 2 of the top 7, 6, 5 receivers in this draft by way of Iowa State. I thought they did an excellent job. The wide receiver position, and Nico Collins isn't an old player. The wide receiver position, you have some young talent, and it's one of the more expensive positions. We talk about CJ Stroud's inevitable extension. When you have 2 guys that you hope are going to be a big part of the receiving room, when you have them on second round rookie contracts for the next few years, and then you have the team friendly quote Nico Collins contract, I think it's a good thing. So getting young talent at wide receiver is great. It's cool to swing for the fences when it comes to the Stephon Diggs thing, but they needed to make the wide receiver room younger, and they did it. So more power to them. I think it was a good move. 6 days away from camp. We'll see how it all looks once everything shapes up. But I think getting younger was a good idea. Number four best change for the Texans was getting CJ Gardner-Johnson for Kenyon Green. I don't know how this CJ Gardner-Johnson thing is going to work out. I mean, there's a possibility that maybe if things don't go perfect, there's some sort of drama and there's some sort of disturbance. I don't know how he's going to mesh. But I do know that with everything that happened with Jimmy Ward, and given the fact that Kenyon Green is useless here, and he can go revive his career somewhere else, but he was pretty much useless here. Getting back a quality safety, top 15 last year, top 10, however you want to look at it, safety, that's great. Now, maybe Jimmy Ward is a depth piece, but getting a safety and adding him to an already really, really good defense for an offensive lineman that was pretty much useless in this situation, salute to them. So that's good change number 4. Good change number 5, returning to West Virginia for training camp. I think this is a nice little getaway. Last year, their training camp schedule was a little bit stressful. They had to start early. They had to go on the road early. They had to come back into the heat, travel all over the place. I think the nice, soothing little trip to West Virginia before their preseason game, I think this is kind of just what the doctor ordered for this Texans squad. I think this is going to be nice. Myself and Cody Stutes will be in West Virginia as well. We already have our stuff booked, so we'll give you the coverage here on his channel, Houston Football, as well as on SNL. But returning to West Virginia, I think it was a good move by the Texans. Change number 6, rolling the dice on character. I don't know if David Arnett makes this team, but I like that the Texans are willing to roll the dice on guys that have shaky character. I really do. I think there was too long of a time period where the whole scenario, the whole outlook was way too non-negotiable. And I think opening up your minds and opening up the possibilities and the array of talent that you can perhaps bring to the table, I think this is a good thing for the Texans. I very much support this, rolling the dice on character. I don't know if it's going to pay off with Damon Arnett because we've never seen him good in the NFL, but I'm glad that they're willing to do this. I know some people may disagree. Bob McNair, the late Bob McNair, we heard John McClain come on here and talk about how Bob McNair would have been disgusted and upset. I like that they're doing this. So those are the 6 best changes the Texans have made this offseason heading into camp. Number 1, Triple B, bye-bye Bobby. Number 2, moving on from Tunsil. I like it. Some may not. I'm a fan. Number 3, getting young talent at wide receiver. Number 4, getting C.J. Gardner-Johnson for Kenyon Green. Number 5, returning to West Virginia, getting out of that Texas heat for a little bit. And number 6, rolling the dice on character. One thing you don't have to roll the dice with is Bob Tack. Shout out to Bob Tack for sponsoring the video. Bobby's been in the business for 45 years. His son Reed, side by side with him. 409-744-8225, 24/7 availability. Whether it's in the fields, whether it's hazmat, whether it's maritime, they got you covered. You just look at the website. You just look at all these products at bobtack.com. They got the eye protection, the hearing, the fall protection, the impact gloves, maritime. They even got the heat stress stuff, the spill control products, all of it. They got the hazmat suits, anything you want when it comes to safety, they got you. Bob Tack LLC, call them. They'll deliver to you for free locally. They'll deliver anywhere, and they got you covered. Quit letting the big companies rip you off. Go to Bob Tack. So I want to talk about potential fall-off candidates and potential burst on the scene candidates for Texans training camp. And I think the fall-off candidates, maybe this is just me being a little bit more proactive and trying to prepare myself for potential fall-offs, because let's just be honest. If we go back to every season that we've ever watched and every season that I've ever covered, there's always like a surprise where you expected more from this guy and you ended up getting a little bit less. That happens in every sport. That happens on every team. And in football, it happens like crazy. A lot of it has to do with father time. A lot of it has to do with the league kind of catching up to you. A lot of it can be a player breaking down. But there are 2 fall-off candidates that I'm watching. And this is based on what we've expected from them. But they play 2 positions where a lot of times there's warning signs, and you kind of ignore those warning signs, and then they suddenly reemerge, and you feel like, man, I should have seen this coming. And one of them, I think, is one of the Texans' best players. But he plays a position where guys fall off. And I got the question mark here because I'm not calling my shot here. Again, this is fall off watch. But Joe Mixon at age 28, we're going to see what kind of shape Joe Mixon is in as far as physically. I know he's probably got his body right, pause. But it's just the age where running backs kind of fall off. And this is the other thing about Joe Mixon that I don't think is getting enough attention. I talked about this today on the SNL position series talking about running backs. Like, we talk about Dameon Pierce and we talk about the system, and we say, well, you know, he didn't really have a good grasp of this system, and the system had everything to do with why Dameon Pierce fell off. Joe Mixon's 28 years old, and for the most part, the majority of his career, he's run kind of a similar system. Now, maybe Nick Caley has elements of this system, and he's going to avoid, you know, trying to make Mixon do something that he hasn't been asked to do, and maybe he's gonna cater to Joe Mixon's strengths. We don't know what Nick Caley's gonna do, but if this is the O'Brien system is way different than the Kubiak system, and that West Coast system that we always talk about, and we've been talking about for the last 2 years. So if the system matters that much, what about someone who's been in a version of a different system now having to pick this up? I think it's just something key to keep an eye on. And I think naturally, whenever running backs turn 28, you keep an eye on that as well. Joe Mixon last year, despite missing a few games, he was top 15 in use. He was top 15. And I know like some people would say, well, he's a superhuman and he's a freak and all that. I get it. But I mean, even running backs that are really, really good for their team, they end up giving up on them sometimes. Titans said bye-bye to Derrick Henry. Saquon. They thought he was probably getting too old. They were wrong. I'm not betting on this with Mixon. I just think it's something to keep an eye on. It's a natural thing that happens. Shout out to Eric Kids 27. He says, shout out to the locker room for pushing through these dog days.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Always. No days off. Business about to pick up, though. Believe that. Milio brings up Dalton Schultz. Maybe a Schultz fallout is incoming. As for Mixon, maybe we get him more pass catching out of the backfield. Been begging for that for a while. Didn't Schultz already fall off last year? I mean, I think you've just kind of lowered the bar with Dalton Schultz. The bar hasn't been lowered with Joe Mixon. And fall-offs are all subjective. They're all proportional. Like a Joe Mixon fall-off could mean that he has 900 yards and like 7 touchdowns. That's a Mixon fall-off. Could mean that they ask him to do a little bit too much. But it happens. Cebu says, what about Lassiter and Bolick as fall-off candidates? I think those are good suggestions, Cebu. Those are really good suggestions. Second-year guys. And we didn't see a decline coming from CJ Stroud. Now, the thing that these guys have going for them is the coach is going to put them in the perfect position possible. And the defensive system that they're in is as good of a defensive system and as good of a player-friendly system as a defensive player can be in. So some would say that the CJ fall off, you can blame Bobby.
Damn it, Bobby.
So that's the one thing they have going for them. But if recognition is a problem for Bullock, and if Lassiter is going to get challenged, maybe there's opportunities for a little bit of slumpage. So I think those are fine candidates. What about Dalton Schultz falling off even more? Yeah, I guess that could potentially happen. A little bit more of a fall off. Will says that Azeez could fall off. Yeah, I could see that very easily. I could see that very, very easily. He was not very impressive the last time we saw him on a football field in the Texans uniform. That was rough. Now, I don't think they're going to ask him to guard a tight end. But, man, with the way Travis Kelce looked last year and how slow he was, I mean, I know he's one of the GOATs and one of the best playoff performers of all time, not just our time, of all time. But, man, you thought there would be some sort of equalizer. But I think Mixon's there. The next one, when it happens, it happens. And some of the best of all time, it just happens out of nowhere. Mike Vanderjagt, Justin Tucker last year, although he probably had a lot of stuff on his mind. The kickers, man. The kickers, Kaimi Fairbairn. Now, they're probably going to be indoors a lot to his liking, and there's some warm weather. But once it happens very quickly. I don't know how much of the long snapper matters. But he's never kicked a field goal without John Weeks snapping it. Does that matter? Don't know. I know they spend a lot of time together. They're very close. Kicking is mental. Maybe he gets a little bit uncomfortable. It's not part of the routine. I don't know. I'm not trying to speak it into existence. I'm just saying there's a lot of frustration with Kaimi Fairbairn. And there were some frustrating missed field goals. I thought they got a little bit too in love with those 50-yarders last year. They got a little too in love with those 50-yarders. But let's keep an eye on Fairbairn. I mean, it would be a hell of a travesty, but a lot of teams have experienced it, to put together a really good football team. And let's say that the offense is gelling. Let's say that the defense is gelling. We don't even have to let's say. We know the defense is going to be good. But then the kicking is what kind of holds you back. We've seen some really good teams season end as a result of that. And I'm not talking about like Gary Anderson with the Vikings. He was good. He just missed that one field goal. But there are times where just a shaky kicking can cost you. Fairbairn was kicking fine when we saw him kicking indoors. And I don't think he's ever going to be a bad practice kicker.
We in here talking about practice.
Of course we are. That's all we've seen. But when it happens, it's going to happen quickly. And it's going to surprise you, and you might not see it coming. But Fairbairn is also on fall-off watch. Did I miss anyone? Aziz Al-Shire, I thought that was a good one in the chat. Bullock and Lassiter, naturally, because they're second-year players. I don't think Daniil Hunter, there's any threat of that. He played every game last year. He's solid. I don't think there's any threat of that. You got him for 2 more years. I mean, crazier things have happened, but I wouldn't put Daniil Hunter on the list. Stingley, no way. Gardner Johnson, I don't think. None of the offensive linemen are even like on the radar, so can't put them there. I don't think CJ is going to fall off. But yeah, I would say Mixon. And then the previously mentioned defensive guys in Fairbairn. Did we put Nico Collins on the list? I would say probably not. But the injuries are definitely a little bit frustrating when it comes to Nico. But that's the bad stuff. Let's talk about the burst onto the scene candidates. The BOC candidates. Burst on scene, BOS, excuse me. The burst on the scene candidates for the Texans. Guys that we could see whether they've been here before and you think that their play could raise up, or they've just arrived and you feel like they could be guys that are significant contributors to the 2025 version of D'Amico Ryans and Nick Casario's team. Number one is those rookie wide receivers we just talked about. I think one of these guys is going to be an immediate, significant contributor. I think both of them are going to make plays throughout the course of the season. I am very, very, very high on Jalen Knoll. And I'm high on Christian Kirk. I don't know if they're going to be able to incorporate both of those slot guys at the same time, but if they're able to, I think that's going to be the most beneficial possibility for CJ Stroud because it opens up everything on the outside. Keeps the defense on the toes, makes the offensive line look better. The Iowa State rookie wide receivers. There was a day where Higgins was arguably the best guy on the field. Had the one-handed catch, had the post across the middle. Iowa State wide receivers, one of them is going to significantly contribute immediately, at least one of them. I think eventually, Knoll might be that dude. But those are at the very top of my list, and quite frankly, you need them. Next one, this is a guy who's already a hell of a player. He's already on pace. He can do the exact same thing that he's done the last couple of years, and he's still going to be one of the better players at his position, one of the better players on this football team. But I think the sky is the limit for this guy, and I think the burst on the scene candidate, and perhaps the guy that can provide the biggest impact for this football team, is elite Will Anderson. We've gotten snippets, we've gotten small sample sizes of Will Anderson being really, 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 really good. But we haven't seen him consistently put up sacks. There's been times where he's been a little bit banged up. But he's the face of the swarm, according to Stingley and according to D'Amico. And elite Will Anderson. We're on elite Will watch. Like, Will Anderson, top 5 in Defensive Player of the Year voting or something like that. It's not crazy at all to think about. And if you look at the work he's put in this offseason, it's very noticeable. He worked out with Myles Garrett, the defense that he's going to have around him, the attitude that he possesses, how much they believe in him. Elite Will Anderson is high up on the list. And that might be the most impactful thing for this football team, where defense is likely going to be a big part of the identity. Rod on the chat says, I think Mechie, he's either going to be really good or cut. No in between. He's not on the roster if he's just okay. What is the path for him to get on the roster? Like, because we consider him primarily a slot guy, right? They got Christian Kirk and they got Noel. Where does Mechie fit? Especially when you factor in you got Higgins, you got Collins, and you got Watson. And I don't know where the fit is for John Mechie. I could see him on another team. Maybe his familiarity with the system kind of plays out. I thought that was interesting. Something that we talked about yesterday, where he's played for Bill O'Brien, and this is the Bill O'Brien system. At least the offensive linemen that played for O'Brien and are here, and the wide receiver that played for him and is here. He said it. Maybe that helps him. I don't think so. I don't think that helps him too much. So I don't see like a high upside thing for John Mechie. I think he either barely makes the team and we see more of the same, or he doesn't make the team. I don't think with this group of wide receivers and all the upside they possess, I don't think there's going to be like some sort of high ceiling for John Mechie. I think it's either he doesn't make the team or he's just the same guy that we've seen the last few years. I don't see it. I'm sorry. Next burst on the scene candidate. Y'all know I'm buying the stock. Christian Harris. You see him on the thumbnail. He's in the old Texans uniform because that's the last time we saw him making plays. I have not seen someone this slept on. I mean, they are begging you to buy Christian Harris stock right now. And people are just thinking it's too good to be true. And I get it. But I think the fact that you're not dependent on it, the fact that he plays a position that DeMeco Ryans adores, that he's played some really good football in big moments for DeMeco Ryans. Like, I don't know that they make the playoffs without Christian Harris 2 seasons ago. I'm very, 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 very giddy on Christian Harris this year. Now we know the outlier. He can't stay healthy. And quite frankly, DeMeco didn't do him any favors last year because now everybody thinks he's soft. And I think that's a big contributing factor to the way that the fan base looks at Christian Harris. A year ago, we've talked about this all offseason, but a year ago, this was the guy whose arrow was pointing up the most. This was the guy that was like talked about as a borderline potential Pro Bowler because of what we saw. And now all of a sudden it's gone. He's still on the team. I mean, I could very easily see Christian Harris taking Henry To'oTo'o's snaps. I mean, that's not crazy. I think Henry To'oTo'o is still a good football player. I think Christian Harris at his best is a better football player. I think they can complement each other. I think they could maybe even be like a nice little, to steal a baseball term, they could be a nice platoon. But Christian Harris, the stock price is low right now. Really low right now. And I think it should be bought. I think DeMeco did a disservice to him. I think DeMeco Ryans last year, I gave him every opportunity. He even joked about it at the press conference. Oh, you're always asking about Christian Harris. Well, I'm trying to give you an opportunity, sir, to say Christian Harris is hurt. He's got a couple months to heal, and then we'll see what happens. Because it was kind of a mystery situation at camp. We saw him practice, then we saw him on the side, then we saw him return to practice, and then we didn't see him again. And there were whispers that it was a more serious injury. So when you try to protect him by not saying how hurt he is, I think essentially the fan base kind of thought, oh, well, this guy's soft. He had a bad injury, and they didn't say it. And I think if they would have said it, then I think that maybe there would be a little bit more excitement. But instead, it's almost like the guy had like a rolled ankle or something like that and wasn't playing. That wasn't the case. So sign me up for the Christian Harris BOS candidacy. Did I miss anyone when it comes to the burst on the scene? Christian Harris, the Iowa State receivers, they're on the list. Did I miss anyone? Henry To'oTo'o, I like Henry To'oTo'o. I feel like he might be overvalued heading into this season. I enjoy talking to Henry To'oTo'o. He said he got fat his rookie season. Really committed to that. He's a hell of a football player that you want on your team. Hell of a football player. And man, he stepped it the hell up last year when Christian Harris got hurt. He took advantage of that opportunity. But I think the stock might be a little bit too high. I think when called upon, he'll be able to handle his business. But he's not as good of a football player as Christian Harris. He's just not. Now, maybe we go to the best ability is availability, and then we can talk. But if all things are equal, the same way that we talk about Nico Collins, and there's a lot of hypotheticals, if Christian Harris is on the football field and Henry To'oTo'o is on the football field, Christian Harris is a better football player. He's a better football player. 100,000%. Zach says that beer's messing with your mind, Landry. What do you mean? You think Henry To'oTo'o is a better football player than Christian Harris? Come on, dude. That's insane. The beer helps the mind. But you honestly think that Henry To'oTo'o is a better football player than Harris? When on the field. Might be a big win and a big if. But no, Henry To'oTo'o is not a better football player than Christian Harris. Not by a long shot. Not even close. We've just forgotten about Christian Harris. It's crazy. The fall off, the out of sight, out of mind is crazy when it comes to Christian Harris. I know who's on the field more. I don't disagree with that. But, I mean, so do you think Garrett Wilson's better than Nico Collins? Because that was a poll I put out where it was like 92%. The per game career, Garrett Wilson's better in every area. He hasn't had a quarterback, and he's played as many games in 3 years as Nico Collins has in 4. Do you think Garrett Wilson is better than Nico Collins? Yay or nay? That's a maybe. So it's not definite. I don't care who's on the field more. I mean, in the season, it'll matter. Right now, everyone's healthy. I'm not going to forecast injuries. Like when we talk about the Texans, we're not forecasting injuries. We can look at it and say maybe this guy's going to wind down. But I just think we're sleeping on Christian Harris. I think we're sleeping very much on Christian Harris. Very, very much. Look out for him. Now, what's going to happen now is we're gonna go to training camp next Wednesday, 6 days from today, and me and Cody are going to be out there. Here's how we get to camp. Take out behind the scenes. So you pull up, you show your pass, you park, you walk up. There's usually a wait. There's some awkward dialogue. You talk to the people that you want to talk to, head nod, all that type of stuff. And on the way in, they hand you a roster. You look at the roster. The first thing you do when you get the roster, might have a roster here. Maybe I threw them away. Did a little cleaning. But the first thing you do when you get the roster is you look down at the bottom and it says like injured reserve or pup and all that. Watch us get there and it's like Christian Harris is on pup. That sucks. But if he's not, then you walk out. The far practice field's on your left. The one on the other side of the bubble. The other practice field is like to your right, which is where, and it's two practice fields on the left, like behind the bubble. And then to the right is where like the fans go for the open practice. By the way, if any of y'all are going to be out there, let us know. Me and Cody, we don't mind mingling with the people. We like it. And then the guys come out and you try to see, okay, who's out there. You take roll. You see us on Twitter, like so-and-so is or isn't practicing or whatever. And then some guys are like making their way to the side field. If Christian Harris is on the side field day one, then maybe that changes the way that I'm talking about this. Because I don't know how much I want to die on this hill. But he is a better football player than Henry To'oTo'o when he's on the field. He is a better football player. There's no doubt about that. It's not really close at all. Talent wise, on the field, whatever. To'oTo'o did his thing last year though. I like him, and I like the linebacker depth, kinda. I don't think there's any like high upside. I do think it was a good bring up of Aziz potentially falling off this year. I could see that happening. I do wonder how D'Amico would handle that. Like, let's say, all right, let's pretend. This is a big pretend. This is use your imagination. This is borderline Barney style. So let's pretend that Christian Harris is healthy and playing well. And let's pretend that To'oTo'o is what he was last year. So you have those two guys good to go. What if there's a little bit of a fall off from Aziz? How does D'Amico handle that? Does he lower the playing time? Because we talked about earlier, D'Amico Ryans firing Bobby Slowick. He benched Jalen Petrie too in year one, and that's one of his favorite guys. So D'Amico is willing to make those decisions. I say that, but then you look at what happened with Kenyon Green and Shaq Mason last year, and it kind of wipes it away. Kind of interesting. It's almost like I'm not even going to try to explain that. We have the EJ Speed factor, which is brought up. We'll see what happens with EJ Speed. I think EJ Speed's a reserve linebacker and a special teams guy. He misses a hell of a lot of tackles. Hell of a lot of tackles. Indianapolis, they weren't big fans of him for a long, long time. Missing the tackles was a lot, talking a lot. I think he's a hell of a reserve linebacker. But he's not better than Christian Harris. It's not even close. Christian Harris is the most talented linebacker you have on your team. And when he's on the field, he's your best linebacker. There's no one better. Unless you want to, if you want to say that Jalen Petrie is essentially a linebacker, because that's basically what he is. When he's playing 95% of the snaps and he's playing his best, then maybe you can make a case he's your best linebacker. But when healthy, Christian Harris is the best guy. Not close. There's no one even really in that category. When healthy, with the upside. There's unrealized potential there too. And he's got to get paid. He's trying to survive in the NFL. He's out here trying to show D'Amico and reward D'Amico for the belief in him. Christian Harris is one of those swarm guys. You remember D'Amico Ryan's opening press conference? He mentioned a handful of guys. One of them was Derek Stingley. What have we seen from Derek Stingley? Good stuff. Second highest paid corner in the game right now. Jalen Petrie, rough start. Found a role for him. Christian Harris. Saw some good things in year one. So I'm a fan of what Christian Harris can bring. I think the upside's high. Can Harris cover Kelsey when it counts? Is the question.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Kelsey sucked last year. I know it was the playoffs, but Kelsey was terrible before he went off against the Texans, and he was terrible after. I don't think they're going to put a linebacker in position to cover too many tight ends. That was a representation of, like, have you ever seen where like 3 wide receivers get hurt and all of a sudden you're lining up tight ends out wide, like on offense, like where, like, let's say 3 guys get hurt. I think the Texans have been in this situation before, maybe against the Jets 2 years ago, where Tank went down and then Nico went down and everybody got banged up, where CJ had the concussion. But you know, like when a bunch of receivers get hurt and then you line up the tight end, they didn't have any nickelbacks against Travis Kelce. Like in the ideal scenario, maybe you have Petrie on him. I don't know if it goes any better with Jalen Petrie covering him. But in the next ideal scenario, you have Jimmy Ward on him. I think Jimmy Ward would probably do a little bit better job, like if the task is just to cover Travis Kelce. They lost both of those guys. And as a result, they had to use Azeez. They're not going to ask him, but I think that he's probably got a little bit more potential to cover a tight end than Azeez. He's a DB in high school. He was a DB and a running back. He didn't play linebacker until his freshman year at Alabama. So he's only been playing that position for 6 years now. But that wasn't like some sort of thing where they're going to ask Azeez or the linebacker to do it. They just didn't have a nickel back. They got depleted in that area. Will asks, what's Autry's role on this team? I have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. Just turned 35 years old. I didn't put him on the fall-off potential. I did put him on potential surprising cuts. And I don't know how surprising it would be. But they got a lot of depth on the edge. They got guys on the interior. I think in a perfect world, they would love to have Autry. It's just, is he going to be ready to go? He's obviously going to be on a limited snap count. You saw what happened last year. 35, though, is a while. I know that he's coming off pretty good season a couple of years ago. I know they love him, but I don't know what Autry's role is going to be and what they see for him. Gave him a hell of a lot of money. But I mean, I see people in the chat. I won't name them, but they're talking about Autry and what he can do, and then they're talking about availability. He wasn't there for the team last year, and he was banged up even before the Peds. I mean, that's what happens when you're 34 years old. Like when you've endured the physical wear and tear that he has. And then you turn 35 years old, you're pushing 40. It's tough. So I don't know what Autry's role will be. Be interesting to see how this whole thing shapes up. Will Caserio drop any bombs next Wednesday? No. Not gonna say much. Will be interesting to hear what they say about the Jimmy Ward thing. Because they kind of got lucky on that they didn't have to speak on it. So I'm assuming they'll say something about the Jimmy Ward situation, but I don't know. Be interesting to see how D'Amico handles that. That's his guy. That's his dude, Jimmy Ward. I'm looking forward to it very much. Tomorrow will be 5 days away. We'll get. I got something fun planned for tomorrow night. So be ready. Shout out to everyone who checked out the BOB one, as well as the SNL position series. Cody Stutes is on vacay. He gets back Monday, just in time for camp. So we'll see how that goes. But I appreciate everyone for rolling through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Be sure to always remember whether Christian Harris is better than Henry To'oTo'o or not. When it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Like the video, folks. Like the video. Subscribe. All that jazz. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways.